back. It's episode 7 of How's Your Soul, and I'm here with Miss Andye J.
Hello. I love a hand clap.
You love my hand clap, don't
I
you?
love a hand
And we're talking all about loving the skin you're in, her journey with that, what it's looked like for her to grow in love and acceptance of herself, of being a woman in America, being a Black woman in America, what that looks like for her, and all the things. So the only rule is, Andye, you can't say I'm good. So how
clap.
are you?
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I am on a journey, like
Mhm.
just out the gate. I'm 42. I'll be 43 in December,
Oh my
and
goodness.
like the age thing has been in my brain a lot, honestly. Not as far as I'm never somebody who subscribes to a number, but like just even biologically, how far I've come. It's like the timeline, not age, if that makes sense. Like that's been really at the forefront of my thinking and my brain over the
Mhm.
past few months. And I like realized that society like tells us like when you get to a certain age, you should be doing this or you should subscribe to this or that. And I'm like, I literally feel like I'm still towards the beginning of my journey. Like
Yeah.
I don't, I don't feel like I'm about to be middle age or what. I don't know. I don't feel those things. So yeah, I'm definitely still seeking and understanding of like life and of myself and the people I'm around, relationships. Yeah, I am on a journey.
Yeah. So what would you like call or how would you describe this current phase of your journey that you're in?
Hmm. Uh, Seek ye first.
Ooh, I
Seek
like that.
ye first. That actually literally just came to my head, and that is woo child. That is, we could have a whole other podcast episode about that. Just making yourself the priority, making myself in first person the priority, and just like learning so much from like my journey of life from, you know, as far as I can remember to like thus far. The thing that always sticks out for me is I don't know if I've done a good job of taking care of myself first.
Mhm.
And reflections of that are like outside relationships I have, like anxiety, like, and I'm like, what do I need to do? Like, let me slow down. Like, how have I not given myself enough or given myself enough grace or given myself enough like period, like,
Mhm.
so I definitely am in a phase of like, of you need to think about yourself. And even if
Yeah.
that reflects in a weird way in other relationships or in other people's things, like the people who know me, and the people who I think know me but don't, I can't like, it's okay, like, because we're all in such transition, but like I can't really do anything about that. And it's just like I have to like put myself first and like understand what's the best way to take care of myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Mm.
so at, being in your early 40s and finally hitting that point, what did it look like for you internally when you weren't putting yourself first? Because when I met
Whew.
you, per se, you've always been a others person. You've always like shown love through how you love others.
You are just astute and you know me so well. I think, I did a disservice to myself and to some of my relationships and friendships. And I find myself, especially now that I'm married, my husband like knows me so well and he's not afraid to be honest and he's just very perceptive. And I find that I'm much better now, but there's still little ways I have to fix it. But I found like I have suffered, in my own fault, I feel like because I wasn't aware of the giving side and how much, not even like there's nothing bad about giving, but I realized that I was doing things like really making myself internally feel like crazy, or not taking care of myself, or not being 100% transparent about like some relationships that I had. And because I was just kind of like, that's how it is. I love them. I have my isms. They have their isms. I have this. Oh, it's like, and within that, not owning and not honoring, like, oh wait, maybe I don't really want to be treated like that, or maybe I don't really like that part, or maybe I should say something, like without, there's no blame on any side, but I realized like how much stress and weight I was carrying with that, and not being, literally just not being honest with people in my circle about like, this is how I'm feeling, like, because on the outside, I'm such a, only very few people know me like you do. And on the outside, I'm very independent, decisive, like I'm, intimidating, as some people say, which I hate, but like internally, I'm very sensitive, I'm very sensitive, I'm very loving, I'm loyal. And I think that sometimes it's to a fault. Like, I don't think I did a good job of communicating to people who even innocently were just trying to be my, like, in my corner. I don't think I did a good job of communicating, like, how I was feeling in that moment, or what I may have needed, or even like childhood traumas, like of abandonment, like that. Like, I didn't do a good job of communicating that. So, you know, without that realization, I was having like a lot of like physical things, or I'd like just completely retreat from people, or I just be like feeling crazy internally, but being like, yeah, everything's fine. Here we go. And,
Right.
and I didn't, yeah. And I think like that was before I actually made that realization. And then I had some huge relationship losses, that like friendship losses, that really triggered me to be like, wait, what's happening right now? Like, figure it out. And yeah, again, it's we're all human, and we all try our best, so it's no blame. But I just really realized like what I can and cannot do anymore,
Yeah.
and I'm not responsible for taking care of anybody else before I take care of myself. And sometimes I have to suffer the consequences of that. And I think now that I'm older, I have kind of become okay with that. Like, I don't like for there to be like anything negative, but I'm okay with the fact that I'm taking care of myself and like honoring myself first,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, for people that don't know, with you being a teacher and a teacher at heart, and always being, someone of service, that transferred over heavily into just your personal identity of just who you are.
That is
I'm,
so true.
because I don't, like, yes, you're a choreographer, yes, you're a dancer, but I feel like ultimately you're a teacher. Like, that is your lane, that is your strong suit, that is where your gift lies. Like, a lot of dancers can't teach, a lot of choreographers can't teach, or they
Sure.
don't have like the value, to give in their, in their steps or anything, all the different things. But I saw how that translated just into your personal identity off the dance floor too. You're
Absolutely.
always somebody of service, and it was always others, 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 others. And personally, I'd come over and I'd be like, okay, but how are you? I don't know, but how are you? Like,
Literally.
Andye, I asked about you.
Put it together. That's, I mean, that is true. I think that definitely like ties into like, I do know that my purpose 100%, one of my purposes on earth is to be a teacher. Just I know that wholeheartedly. I've said that
Mhm.
so much in my social platforms, to my friends, to people who know me. But as far as making that connection to how I also interact within my like non-teaching life, is so true. So true.
Mhm. So what was your aha moment where you're like, okay, something's got to give?
Honestly,
Honestly.
2020.
Okay.
2020 just brought a lot of crazy, beautiful, like, it's crazy because 2020 started with me and my now husband, like, connecting at the highest level that we ever connected. And then that was like January, beginning of February 2020. And then we didn't see each other again until May of 2021. So that
Oh,
was like,
wow.
that's a whole other episode. But
Yes.
like that, it's the top of that started with that kind of like, wow, okay, what is this is new, and like this blooming of something so real. And it ended with like the loss of so many friendships, the loss of me trying to understand like just 2020, what did it do to me? Because I've never felt like that in my entire life. And I was like, it caused me to go super internal and not to just figure out again, not just the relationships, but like me, like what, like, girl, you're depressed. And I had never felt that ever in my life. And, you know, I'm like, oh, it's just because we're inside. No, I went down.
Yeah.
Like I went down. And
Yeah.
that was a big eye opener for me because I'm like, I just again remember at the beginning of the year, like, oh, this is getting like this is something special. And I felt it and I knew it with my husband and my now husband, but like the complete polar opposite of that feeling towards the end of the year with again some significant people. I was like, ah, okay.
Yeah.
I need to like take a few steps and try to understand. I was like, God, which what we doing? What you guys say? Okay. Like, let me figure this out, you know? And so it was just like taking reevaluation and taking stock of like where do I want to be? That's the year I moved away from LA. Like that well, but you already knew. I've been wanting to move from LA. But like that was like the the point that I was like, oh no, you have to you're not gonna do well or survive if you don't get out of here. And
Right.
there were so many things that, you know, were again pushing me. And on the other like brighter side of that, even as I was like moving and I was like trying to figure my life out and like what like I had like Sienna, my best friend, Alex, Febroth, you, like there's people who still had a very like y'all left space. And I think that's was a really big thing that I didn't feel like I was getting from a lot of my I didn't feel like it was reciprocal in a lot of my connections. And it was so cool to like even reflect on that those beautiful things, you know, like so yeah, 2020 was a big eye opener for me.
Yeah. Yeah. 2020 was a lot.
I mean, yeah.
2020 was
It was a lot.
a lot. But so circling back to, loving the skin that you're in, how would you define what does self-love for you look like? And how did growing into that manifest for you?
I still work on self love every day. Like to be 100% transparent, like it's you know it comes in little things as like you know from hair as Black women that's a really big thing for us. Like to even the fact that my husband's white and Italian, like I am still forever 100% a Black woman, Black down, like that
Down.
down, never gonna change. Like that's nothing to do with yeah, you know. Um, but I, you know, like that acceptance of myself, like I'm not changing for nobody. I don't care. I'm not changing for nobody. But that, yeah, that trying to the love and the things that I see in other Black women, just like seeing that that is also a reflection of like things that are in me and trying to recognize that because I think that's something that like there's like sometimes a wall or an invisible wall there where we see like a Black woman having certain achievements or people treating her a certain way or communicating or like we just love her. And I'm like, dang, I'll be doing that for myself. Like, you know, so I really try to like take a minute and do that. I try. This does not always happen. Like for the negative thoughts, I try to switch them to like try to have something positive. It is not always successful, but I at least try to keep that in my brain to, you know, make that something that I actively try to do. You know.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good thing, like that wall or that disconnect between seeing outwardly what's happening for and to those around us and that comparative nature. Or sometimes not even comparative, it's just the lack of sight of like sometimes those exact same things are happening. We just can't see it within,
Exactly.
our own bubble. Um, but I thought this would be a great episode to talk to you about this because, with Queen Domination, you're all about women empowerment. You're all about the love and value of, the woman, the female, the person, the being. Um, and people that are familiar with you, they're so used to hearing the outward message, but few actually get to hear your story.
Yep.
So, as much as you want to share, or as little as you want to share, what did growing up being Andye look like?
That's a great question. Do we have 3 more hours? No. It's so interesting because like whenever like I kind of even touch back on my childhood, like the first thing I do is like is the comparison, like how does that like, or not comparison, like how does that reflect in like who I am today? And
Mhm,
some ways it's so awesome, in some ways I hate it. Like
mhm,
bullet point wise, like I was definitely like in choir and dance, play the flute, like cheerleader, dance team, like studious. And where I grew up, like not a lot of, not just Black girls, but dark skinned girls. I was the only one literally in my vicinity doing any of that shit. So I always felt a bit on the outside and on the outskirts, but it was nothing I could articulate. Cause I honestly, when I was younger, I didn't even think twice about it. I'm like, yeah, I'm Black. But I was like with
right,
a flute and I'm in the march room and I'm a drum major. And
right.
also I'm gonna slap the shit out you. So what's going on? Like I just, yeah, like, and something I always talk about that I just still hate to this day is the people who were the worst to me were Black girls. They were the
Mm,
worst. They bullied me. I
really?
literally specifically remember getting jumped. Like I got called an Oreo. I got called, so many names, and not just about
Wow.
skin tone, but like that was, that was the first thing to attack, because society teaches us that the darker you are, the worse you are. And
Mhm,
as kids, they don't give no fuck. They really be going after that.
mhm,
And I, found myself like trying to understand it, but also being furious because I've always been like really strong headed. And so I'd be like, F y'all. But then
mhm.
like, but also I want to hang out with the Black girls, but y'all don't like me. But
Right,
okay. So
right.
I don't know what to do. Work.
Mhm,
Like, yeah, I always had that, like, it was always a dichotomy for me, even from all the way from kindergarten to high school. Like, I remember like my mom being in this bowling league, like more in like the more Black side of town. And I was so excited because I would just go with her just to like, because I was born in the suburbs, everyone. Yes. I was born in a suburb, and my mom would go. I was born in a suburb of Chicago called Evanston, and my mom would go like in like deep Chicago to like where the Black people was bowling. It was so fun, and I remember I loved it, and like getting the cheese fries and chilling. But the number one memory I have is the Black kids always saying to me, "Why you talk white? Where you from? Why you sound like that? Why?
Oh my
What do you?" And I'm like,
goodness.
"Oh my god!" Like, and those little things, they have an effect on you, because I noticed then as I
Yeah.
keep going through life, even like Black dudes saying to me like, you ain't really Black, you ain't really hood. I'm like, yeah, I'm not hood. I'm from the suburbs. What do
Mhm,
you want? Like, Black dudes saying that, or being aware of like people of other races, like, are you fetishizing me or what are you doing? Like it's always
mhm,
trying to have a
mhm.
wall up, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm not like the typical, if you way, they don't think I'm the typical Black girl. And I'm like, oh, I'm Black.
Right,
I don't know what you thought.
right,
I'm Black.
right,
Like,
right.
so yeah, like that, growing up with that kind of background, I think. And then, not to get in all of the deep, but my biological father and I were not close, and abandonment issues of that, like all that coupled together is a lot of things. And it's not easy to, to maneuver around that if you can't really like tap into what that is. And so
Mhm,
I think within that, I started to give myself grace, but because like I'm not comfortable sharing that with like, well, now I am, but like sharing that with this just anybody, it is hard to ask people to have grace for you when they don't understand your story. And I had to really like get that in my head and be like, I gotta stop having these expectations of people. Like, regardless of like, I know that I do anything for them, I got them, I got their back. But I'm like, oh, but I can't. It's not even like a bitchy way, but literally, you can't expect people to treat you the same way you treat them, especially when they don't really know what your story is.
what's going on?
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And just going back to our personal relationship, I'm just good at picking up on energetic cues. So you know me, I may not know what's going on with you, but I'm like, okay, something ain't right with Andye. Let me show up at her door. You know, I show up at your door
Literally
in a
showing up my door.
heartbeat.
Literally.
I'll be at
Wine
your
bottle
door.
in hand. What you doing, girl?
We don't gotta talk about it. We just go sit here. We go watch Grey's Anatomy or whatever the case may be.
Exactly. And
You know?
but those kind of relationships, and again, people holding space for you, and I really try to like be that same person, like that those are the things that's what like makes you breathe and makes you stay alive, like that those like it doesn't matter about time or space, like but just knowing that, or like out like external space, but knowing that somebody cares enough about you to hold that space for you. And when I have so far found some solidly like energies, and I even if it's the three that I have, 3, 4, including my husband, like I am fine with that. Like,
Yeah.
it's just we all need that space to be vulnerable and to not be what the world thinks we're supposed to be. Or like for me, a lot of the times, like the planner or the scheduler or the organizer or somebody's mom, somebody's auntie, like I take all those things and I love them. God bless. I'm so grateful that people feel that about me, but I don't want to be that 100% of the time. And there's only a few people who can really understand that,
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So, I'm not gonna pry, but
I'm like, don't.
going back, I got you. I
I'm
got
like,
you.
I got you.
This is usually this is really easy, but just because I know you so well, I'm like, let me ask the right questions.
You do know me.
So, but I do want to tap into this if you're okay with it. When mentioning self-love and how you like to practice self-love, you mentioned the first thing you mentioned was your hair. And I know personally that has a story tied to it. Why is hair so important for you? And why is expressing hair, one, for Andye, but two, for just being a Black woman? Why is that so important?
I'm going to do good because I feel like I'm not going to cry because I am working steadily on this, I think. So I'm going to like, I feel like
and if you cry, it's okay.
Yeah, I was like, I feel good. I actually put this up a few months ago on my Instagram, and like, love my mom, love her to death, but she had her own like issues as a Black woman. But for me, there's always been a negative connotation tied to me and my hair. Like that is from like kids to high school to teaching dance to moving to LA, like, all the way to having like some guy this Black man who I thought was like in my corner, finding out that like he was running around in LA telling people like, I love Andye, but she got to fix her hair. She like that. And him not realizing how damaging that was. They're like, you didn't even tell me, like, and that just put like a stain. We're not friends anymore, but we were friends for some years after that. But that was always like, it was always a stain, right here, and like a little sting. And I'm like, people, especially, and I think honestly, because he was Black, and affecting me more, I'm not gonna lie. But I think like being dark skinned, our hair in general is not easy to deal with. And we're taught that it has to look a certain way, even now that it's definitely more accepted to wear it in its natural state. But like, even my husband, like, he's always like, you should just wear your hair like all natural. I'm like, are you crazy? Like, which is so sad that I still have that reaction. Like, I'm like, I'll wear it in a low bun because it looks like it's straight and down. But like natural state, absolutely not. And it sucks that like that's still the sentiment, because it's there again, like I was not taught how to properly care for it. I was like within my household. I was, our moms also and grandmas who we love our grandma so much. But like that was a generation that was like, yes, look like a nappy pussy. Like, like grandma's like just saying wild stuff like that. And it has an effect on you. And then like again, not properly knowing how to care for it. But what I'm realizing as I'm getting older and I'm learning how to care for it, it just, I mean, our crown is a part of our soul for sure. So as I'm learning how to care for it, it does a change internally to you at the same time, because it's a confidence thing, it's a spiritual thing. And I don't, I really don't want to live the rest of my days like ashamed of my head. I've gotten better, but I still am. I still will literally to this day would never go out with my hair in a natural state ever,
Yeah.
which is crazy. So
Yeah.
I'm like, that is a work in progress for sure.
Yeah. And I'm going to close out with, what would you tell 4-year-old little Andys out there today in 2023? The dark skinned girl who's being called an Oreo, who doesn't know what to do with her hair, who doesn't like her 4C curl pattern, who isn't sure about her identity. What would you tell them?
You the baddest bitch ever. No, I'm just kidding. I would say, can you imagine? No, for real. The first thing is the Oreo and that all that like weird social stuff. Like, you don't have to fit into a box. I think that Black women, especially like in my generation, I think it definitely, like I said, it's gotten better. In generations after me, but 4-year-old Andye, like, you could be any kind of Black woman you want to be. There's not one particular kind of Black woman. Don't let insecure Black women, Black men, white women, white men, don't let them make you feel, don't let them project their insecurities on you. And love yourself so that you don't internalize those insecurities, because I didn't love myself enough when I was young enough. I didn't love myself enough when I was that young. And I let the other people's insecurities like get in, it affected me to where I'm still like fighting it off to this day. So love yourself. You are amazing the way you are. You are a Black woman, don't matter where you're born, what kind of hair you have, your skin, like, you're Black. And that is an honor and it's a crown. And yeah, just love yourself and surround yourself with people who hold space for you like that and who also love you.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Andye.
Thank you for having me. I love this. I really
This
did.
was fun.
Thank
This was
you. Thank you for
fun.
having me. I love you so much.
I love you too. So until
It's nice
next
to see you.
time, this has
Yes.
been How's Your Soul, episode 7. I can't believe that we're on episode 7 with Miss Andye J and her Sauvignon Blanc.